never cross the streams.
So why do so many golfers struggle to stay down in the golf swing? Today I'm going to show you how you shouldn't cross the streams, as he said. Also how to improve your driver, this can apply to iron as well, in a way that's going to make you stay down better, get rid of these shapes that we see from amateurs, create more these shapes that we see from pros. You're going to hit straighter drives with this, you're going to strike the ball better, you're going to hit better irons if you apply these ideas also. The drills, 3 of them, ideas I'm going to give you, super simple. Anyone can use them to help themselves improve the way they stay down through the golf ball. So the fault that we see, it's very challenging fault. We see lots of golfers do it where we see them want to push their pelvis forwards, making their upper body stand up and also become quite flat. They might have a little bit of a drop and then they have that repeat move on the way through. It's almost like they want to hit the ball by thrusting this way, upper body comes back as they rotate, and we see these positions here where with pros what we are seeing consistently is more this kind of follow through where the shoulders are more tilted, the upper body's out in front of the pelvis. There's a separation of 2 segments which allows them to control low point, strike the ball better, and certainly create better speeds by better club path and efficiency just of general movement. Now there can be loads of reasons why this happened, but here are the 3 main ones that I see, and if you work on these I'll be shocked if this move stays in your game. Remember, if you like today's video, hit the like button for me, it really helps the channel. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already, it's free. And if you like this myth-busting, fact-based golf coaching, I'm using real data from real students to prove to you rather than the silly online stuff, then make sure you hit the link down below. There's a newsletter I run every week and it's fact-based coaching to cut through the online myth that's just flying about. So issue number 1 we see is setup. It's so common in setup that we see the backside not really behind the heels very far. So we see the backside quite connected to the heel, so almost produced kind of push forwards, then with a stretch of the arms. Now as I turn and rotate on this kind of backswing, it's very easy to turn and push this pelvis forwards, which if you think about it, if this goes forwards, this has to go up. It's just going to happen. So you'll be amazed how much your pelvis is really controlling everything. Now if you set up to the ball in this common way we see with stretch with the arms with the driver and pelvis kind of push forward so it's not really behind the heel, so my backside is barely behind my heels, this is only producing this movement. So let's fix that. So point number 1 is we want your hands to be more under your chin with the driver. So where with the irons your hands and arms will be a bit more under your shoulders, with the driver it's slightly more pushed out so you can get it a little bit more so your hands are just under your chin. Obviously you can check that. I could pick this ball up, I could address where I want, and I could literally drop it from my chin and see where it goes. I mean, it's going to hit just on my thumb there, it's hitting my hands. If you're someone who wants to push out a long way, you're going to drop it, it's going to miss the top of the club. Easy check to see if you are getting your hands underneath your chin a little bit more. Now what happens if you get your hand underneath your chin is your hands don't push up quite so high, so they might get a fraction lower, and this is what will tilt you correctly to get your backside a little bit more behind your heels. So we're really looking to get some separation at the beginning. We want the pelvis to go back, we want the chest to go forward. So they're occupying slightly 2 different spaces. What we see often from amateurs is they kind of move these 2 segments together and then have to stretch out for the ball. So getting your hands under your chin is a real simple checkpoint to make sure that your hands are close enough to you. Then if that ball is in line with the head of the club, to reach it, you're going to have to feel that you are pushing backside out and chest forwards. And just remember with your posture, you're kind of balancing, you're trying to get set, meaning if I push a part of my body with any weight, so let's take my trail leg, quite a lot of weight compared to my whole body, if I push that back, I naturally lean forwards. I can't stand up and push that back because I'm just going to fall back. I'm balanced that way. And it's the same with your posture. If you stretch your arms out, you're going to push your pelvis forwards to get them connecting with the hands, or you're just literally not going to reach it. And then this part, your upper body is going to come back to try and center you to balance over the middle part of your feet. You're just balancing the segments. So rather than balance more where the segments are stacked on top of each other, you want to push something back that makes you feel like you're going to fall back, but then make sure the other part, so the upper part, goes forward. And it's quite important that you feel these 2 segments, which you'll see as we get into the next tip. So the backswing, where it can often unwind, making the downswing impossible. Let's give you a drill to try and get the backswing not moving like this, but more like this. So I'm going to use a second ball for this. Once I've got myself chin hands under my chin with my setup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place this ball where, a little awkward, but it's in line as I look down from my posture. So it's going to go quite a long way back. So it's about there. So basically I can see that ball between my legs. I know, toilet humour, haha, just bear with me. Now the reason I'm doing this is I'm going to make a backswing where I still see that ball. So if I just take the club away to start, just use my arms. If I rotate my pelvis where I feel like this glute, this butt cheek kind of breaks the glass back this way, my pelvis moves so it actually stays back, I can still see that ball. Now if I make a move where I feel like I need to keep my pelvis where it is and turn, which is what people do, actually your pelvis will feel like it's going back if you do this properly. What happens is my pelvis goes forward, even though this might look like it hasn't gone forward much. This has gone so far forward and the centre of my pelvis has gone forward, I can't see that ball at all. So if I'm someone who wants to push the pelvis forwards, no chance of seeing that ball. If I'm someone who wants to push the pelvis back, when I take my arms out of the way, there is that ball, like I can see it. So quite a good way of doing this is with one hand, just your trail hand on the club, so you don't get, because your lead arm blocks it basically. And I'm just going to try and make sure I still see that ball. Now for lots of you, that's going to feel that your pelvis is back, and at the same time, if your pelvis is back, remember, like the posture, your chest will feel forward. So you'll start to feel the separation of the two segments. Think about that. So the lower half, if you think about kind of my pelvis and below, is one segment, and then the kind of my belt buckle above is another segment. I'm moving them in different spaces from this camera, so this side to this side. So if I stack these segments, so here I feel like everything's kind of under it, under, like the shoulders are on top of the pelvis, can't see the ball. Where if I stick the pelvis back to see that ball, this has to go forwards, because if this stays back with it, like I'm again just unbalancing. So that's one way to feel your pelvis moving in a way where it's not thrusting forwards on the backswing and standing you up. Just another variation on that, I'm going to take my head cover and stand to the ball in my better posture, and I'm just going to put the head cover kind of at the front of my feet. And what I'm going to do on this swing is I'm going to feel like my shoulders stay over that head cover, but my pelvis is back. So I'm just going to create this line. So it's the same idea, but now the kind of visual cue is out in front of you. So rather than pushing my pelvis out to that head cover, so where I'm covering it and this has come up, what I'm going to try and do is feel two different segments. So you can see how my shoulders are more this side and my pelvis is rotating back that way. So I'm creating this space, which leads us on to the quote at the start from one of the best films ever made, never cross the streams. Watch this. We see this from amateur golfers time and time again, where they cross the streams of the lower section to the upper section of their body. It's a crazy way to hit the ball. I understand why people do it. I think they're doing it to create a little bit of speed often, because they're not using their body that well, so they create speed in other ways, where we just don't see this from better players. So to create speed this way, like, it kind of makes sense, like you've got to get some energy from somewhere is what I think golfers are doing, but you can see how that's going to compromise strike and low point. So how do we not cross the streams? Well, what we're going to do is get the second ball again, and don't worry, it's not going to be in the same place it was just a minute ago. And I'm going to place it on my ball position line, and right in the kind of end of my toes, so not at the end of my toes this side, so where my toes join my feet, so right at the base of my toes, just there on the floor. And what I'm going to try and do now, so I've got my good posture, got my separation of segments, I've made my backswing where I feel this pushes back as this stays forward, so again trying to create those two segments. Now what I'm going to try and do is hit that ball, the one in by my feet, with my trail shoulder. So what I mean by that, if I'm someone who wants to thrust this way and then rotate relatively flat, my shoulder, from my perspective, is kind of lining up with that ball out in front of me. Where actually what we're seeing from the better players is I'm coming through and just covering that ball with this shoulder, literally just slightly covering up to this side of it where I can still see it. So you can see the different tilts that's given me, and in turn the different segments are being separated again, rather than this one this way, this one up, which is covering that ball. I want this one this way, so the lower segment, upper segment down, which is then I'm going to feel literally like I'm hitting the ball with this trail shoulder. And you can really see what that's doing to my angles and how it's encouraging me to create better segment separation, the control strike path, and overall distance to any shot you're going to hit. And what I love about this drill, you can do it with the ball in play, or you can take the ball out of play, and what you can do is actually take it to the course, this one, so I can just imagine there's a bit of mud there that I'm going to try and hit with trail shoulder on the way through to get that club path pushing that ball more out towards target. It's going to get me turning this way, get rid of this movement. It's just going to make this club, the hardest club for most golfers, so much easier to hit. Now, if you want to find out how to set up to this club properly from all angles and how it compares to, say, an iron setup, which is something where golfers really get confused, make sure you watch this video. Remember to subscribe as well if you're not subscribed. It's all free. Loads of free tips coming every week.